Hello and welcome everyone to ET Legal World. I'm your host Monica Behura, and today we are going to discuss and deliberate on the topic generative AI and its impact on legal services and corporate law functions. Generative AI has ignited a lot of anticipation and excitement in the transformative shift in the legal industry. It is poised to not only automate but disrupt the entire legal market in India and globally. So, today, to deep dive into the opportunities, risks, and future of generative AI, we have a team of esteemed panelists. Mr. Ankur Jain, he's the partner at PwC India. Ms. Tejal Patil, she's the general counsel at Wipro. She also heads the legal and compliance, global data privacy, and government functions. And Dr. Akhil Prasad, he's the director, country counsel at Boeing India. And Gaurav Arora, he's the partner at JSA. So, we should begin. Thank you everyone for coming here and welcome. Ankur, will could you just give us a context of generative AI and its, how it is, what are the opportunities and challenges and what are the trends that we see in the legal space?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think, as you said, maybe let me spend a minute to kind of explain what generative AI is and how is it different from AI or artificial intelligence. Look, artificial intelligence has been there in play for many years now, and essentially what we are trying to do there is get the machine to perform tasks like a human, right? So the machine is trained on certain logics, it recognizes certain patterns, and then it is able to perform tasks like human. Generative AI honestly is AI on steroids. So it can generate new content applying logic that it has learned in a very unsupervised training model. So that's what it is.
PwC has been at the forefront of legal innovation and transformation and managing services for clients globally and in India. So, what are the trends and challenges have you seen with the Indian and outside clients?
So maybe I'll to start with, I'll just restrict it to 2 or 3 mega trends the way we see it. We think generative AI in the legal industry space will significantly transform not only the way services are delivered, but the way services are consumed in the legal industry. And maybe as we go through this, we'll talk through some of those examples. So I think that's one major. The second is the impact of this technology, in my view, will be much faster than what most people may otherwise anticipate, right? So in the US, we have seen judiciary already starting to use generative AI to analyze case, to kind of prepare draft, notices and so on and so forth. So I think, and that has also started happening in India, by the way, right? So there are use cases where Indian judiciary is trying to leverage generative AI. So I think the impact is going to be much faster. And I think the third most important aspect in my view is if you look at the India legal talent and legal services space, it is not limited to us providing services to Indian corporates. There's a large chunk of Indian legal talent which works in the alternate legal service provider (ALSP) sector, or the LPOs as they are called.
So, Ms. Patil, Wipro has been taking a lot of legal tech. So, what do you think that how has Wipro keeping the legal, the risk framework and ethical framework, how has it implied?
So let me sort of take with what Ankur has said. So AI has been around for a decade, and Wipro has been using AI as a company for a decade. It's only with generative AI that people are understanding that there is a transformation that can take place. So in Wipro, we have an ambition that we want to embed AI in everything that we do. So every solution, every platform, and every offering. With that, we're also transforming ourselves internally, including the functions, which is including the legal function. So some of the things that we're looking at for the legal services is really, like Ankur said, you need to have large data and you need to have scale for this to have impact. Otherwise, your cost-benefit analysis doesn't work. Okay, so we're looking at areas today to optimize process, improve productivity, legal compliance, IP. So we look at contracts, IT services have large number of contracts. So in one area that this can be used is contracting, contract management. The second one really is around patents, just managing the intellectual property of the company. The third one we talked about really is regulatory compliance, is how do we, in a global company, we have so many tasks in so many countries and a lot of regulations. So how do we sort of get that together? But see, with Gen AI, you've got to look at a very different angle. For ethics of Gen AI, you'll also have to look at, I can automate everything I want, but what is the impact environmentally? What is the impact socially? What is the impact on the individual's privacy? So if you don't consider the cost, not just in monetary terms, but also in ethical terms, you don't make the right decisions. So I think this is a journey that we're on.
So, Dr. Prasad, so what do you think the importance of, what is the importance of regulatory compliance for the industry that you're in?
See, the short answer is I completely agree with what Teja and Ankur said. This is a necessary evil. And, if we go back 30 years, 40 years when there were no computers, and from that time to now, you have supercomputers in your pocket in the form of a smartphone. I think this has been a transformative phase, and generative AI will only is very, very necessary. Whether it's in the part of a contracts, whether it's a part of legal compliance. What we have seen in industry, that generative AI has been embraced for product development, for product and services, which are directly related to business. And the reason for that is why it has been very, very easy to do that is because of the proprietary nature of work. So you have technology, you put your proprietary information in that technology, use that generative AI to your benefit. But the moment we talk about legal services, there the input into the generative AI domain is not in your control. So the question is whether it's proprietary, not proprietary, what information gets generated out of the generative AI, whether you can use it, how effectively can you use it. There are a lot of questions. But, whether it is needed, of course, if it brings about efficiency, if it reduces the cycle time of generating contracts, the most important thing where generative AI should definitely be there is in the judiciary. Because for a very, very long time, we are unfortunately in India, the law enforcement before the court of law has been a big question mark. And I think there are no reasons to say that judiciary or law firms or corporates should not embrace generative AI. But the only question is in what form, after what all development, and I'm sure with companies like PwC, Wipro and others, I'm sure that day is not far where the solutions in terms of generative AI will be embraced by corporates even for legal and compliance work.
Okay. So, Ankur, you have those products in place for the companies. Do you, customize as per the company's requirements?
Yeah. So I think before that, let me put my take on the adoption more specifically. I think I completely agree. It's early days, as we kind of experiment with this technology, try and understand its nuances. So that's certainly there. But what I also think is, like in any other case, you will have to identify the use cases which are more secured, more easier. So as Akhil was saying, going through large volumes of case law, citations, performing legal research is a task which can be reasonably performed in a secured environment in that sense. Using generative AI to draft contracts, especially in a space which is pretty structured and defined, like your NDAs, for example, or certain other such areas. Also for law firms drafting notices for say, for example, non-payment or check bouncing and stuff like that. I think there are many use cases which are much simpler, and I think we'll see adoption there much faster, right? Adoption in terms of more complex areas where you're relying on technology to advise you, right, in terms of what should be the action or what is the likely outcome going to be. I think that's where it will take a little bit more time. That's my view, right? So that's how the adoption will start. And coming back to technologies, yes, of course, there's a significant investment that we at PwC are making in terms of such tech platforms. We have a very large legal regulatory compliance practice, and one of the use cases that we are working on is about seeing that all the regulatory compliance evidence that you collate, checking the authenticity and accuracy of it is something that we think this technology can help us do in a very secured manner. Similarly, drafting compliance reports. I mean, there's so much of ESG reporting and there's so much of other reporting. Can you use data and synthesize these reports through generative AI? Absolutely. So I think there are use cases that we are working on.
Gaurav, tell us about the M&A deals, that what are the potential benefits does generative AI have, on critical aspects of deal making and identifying investment opportunities and risk assessment?
See, while M&A is primarily a process-driven activity, and that's why I see this all the more reason why generative AI will have a huge role to play. In current era, global deals around the world, they are structured in a different world, diverse world, different cultures. There are diverse regulatory hurdles, and there are different legal landscapes that parties have to channelize. And therefore, I see that if we have generative AI in place, most of the synergies in terms of cultural, regulatory, and various legal aspects can be traced beforehand, and therefore there are some primary drivers which drive the M&A deals. If those synergies can be found upfront, then I think generative AI will have a huge role to play in making the deal making better. Apart from these primary driving factors, I also feel that generative AI will have a huge role to play in making the deal making easier. By that I mean we all aware that there are already tools in place which are helping the lawyers in generating good first drafts in legal research and also in e-discovery, so to say. So therefore, I feel that with making with generative AI in place, making the process easier, this will help the deal making a great deal. Apart from that I also feel that generative AI also has a huge role to play in brand building. Yeah, and once the brand building is in place and there are synergies in place, I feel that the M&A deal will really benefit from generative AI.
Ms. Patil spoke about data privacy laws and protection in different jurisdictions. In India, we just recently passed the Data Protection DPDPA Act, but it hasn't explicitly spoken about generative AI. So, Dr. Prasad, how would it align?
The act has been passed. I think we are waiting for the rules, and I'm sure this will be taken care of, because when you hear our IT minister, he has been very, very passionate about making it a big success story for India, and India leading the world in terms of data privacy regulations. That is how I see it. India definitely has, with its most recent laws, has been on the forefront in terms of that vision of making it a multi-trillion economy. I think this is one of the very important aspects, the developments on generative AI in legal field, which perhaps will be a strong endorsement to that effect, that because of this, we have transformed the judicial system, transformed the legal system. If we are able to, this is a huge opportunity for us. And if we are able to power it in that way, thanks to the new regulations, I think that dream of making India the best place to invest is definitely a reality. So now, with good laws, good regulations, a good development needs to happen, and we have enough players like Wipro and others, and with PwCs, that knowledge is there. We really have to think together, develop a program, and demonstrate to the world that India is leading on generative AI on legal services as well. If you are able to do that, I think it will be a very, very strong and positive message.
So AI involves the processing of sensitive information and a lot of confidential information. So how does AI protect the data privacy compliance?
As I just mentioned, see, the only approach to solve for this is to have a balanced approach. Organization needs to have cross-functional teams working on the technology and ensure that whatever goes or fed into the system, it's in compliance with the regulations worldwide, so to say. And then not only what is fed in the system, also the output out of this before it's rolled out. So that's the only way I feel that there can be synergies between data protection and AI innovation.
So,
IP
so you wanted to
protection
say
also, right?
something?
IP protection is the other big one.
Yeah, so that's precisely my point when I said what I said initially is use of generative AI. The big question mark is whose proprietary information is there inside that whole system, and that adds to the burden of compliance to the GC office and to the law firms.
So I think when you talk about IP laws or data privacy laws, see, the thing is, they have to be reimagined, right? Even IP laws today have to be reimagined for the future.
Very good point.
So I think it will be work in progress. There will be some turbulence, and like in many cases, maybe we will lead with judicial decisions. Sometimes you do have to have some cases for people to realize what can go wrong and then legislate for it. It's very difficult when technology moves so fast to legislate first
Yeah.
and then figure out what's going to go wrong,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not,
Yeah,
you
it
cannot
has to be
imagine,
done. Yeah.
what's going to go wrong.
Yes.
So maybe it will take that
See,
path.
law will always follow the development in technology. Technology will move much faster.
Yes. So, Dr. Prasad, I had a question for you. Do you think this, it will affect the job market? Many big tech firms have expressed this concern.
So when I was in school, which was many decades ago, I still do not remember when I was in school. But when I was in school, we did not have computers. And when the computers came, it was the same question whether people will lose jobs. But India has become the largest IT software provider to the world. So artificial intelligence will only increase capabilities. I don't think it will make lives better. It will make us more efficient. I definitely do not think it will take up jobs. It will make people more efficient and better. That's how I see it.
I mean, what we're doing now is upskilling our entire workforce. Because you have to, the same way as he talked about a simple thing of computers or internet, you have to learn to use that skill. So I think the critical part for the country is going to be making its workforce ready for what's coming. And I think this investment in skilling is something that the government is actively looking at, and all the large corporations are actively looking at, to say, let's teach you, what's going to come, and then, upskill.
See, I mean, to both Dr. Akhil Prasad and what Tejal said, I also believe that generative AI will not replace lawyers, right? So Gaurav is safe from that point of view. But what it will certainly do is it will replace those professionals who who don't use generative AI. So professionals who use and know how to use generative AI will start replacing professionals who don't, and that's where the upskilling business comes into play.
In India, where everybody has about 1.5 phones in pocket, everybody is using technology. Even from any economic level, you see anybody from that level, everybody is using digital payment. If you go to a vendor pawn shop, Paytm. So where is the risk of
Yeah, so
people
I
not
think as
embracing
Akhil is
technology?
saying, our ability to adopt to technology is probably in this country far better.
Though I've given that little caveat that the legal fraternity is kind of amongst the slowest. I think lawyers tend to think that nobody can be as smart as them, and therefore a machine certainly can't. And skills required for AI or Gen AI would come naturally, but they don't. So it is going to be a big mindset shift for the legal community to start interacting with the machine more.
Yes, definitely. And So, Gaurav, can you tell us how this technology will reshape the future of law firms, ALSPs, and LPOs?
I would deal with this into two parts. First, impact of this Gen AI on various processes, and then impact of this technology on legal rights of various parties. See, as far as the processes are concerned, we all are aware that there are already tools in place. Of course, those tools are yet not sophisticated to an extent that they can handle complex transactions, so to say. But with the kind of pace that technology is improving, the day is not far where we'll see those tools handling complex drafts as well. But as far as Gen AI having an impact on various legal rights, I'll be slightly cautious on that. Of course, I understand Ankur mentioned he was very passionate about using the technology in judiciary. Dr. Prasad also mentioned that we should use the technology in judiciary. Of course, there's a need for that. But wherever technology impacting legal rights of parties, I'll like to take a caution. As I mentioned earlier, that there have been case studies around the globe that there could be certain biases around the technology. So therefore, I would like to think that let the processes start first and then implement technology on certain aspects which have implications on legal rights of parties.
Okay. So, any concluding remarks as we come to the end of the session? Dr. Prasad?
I completely endorse to the view that this is a fantastic development that artificial generative AI has to play a big role in transformation of legal services. We have a long way to go, but if we are able to marry the two, the first identify the legal problems, which I think firms like PwC are already doing, that this is where we need technology to transform, and then we bring about services, or the software with our, Wipro and TCS and Infosys. I'm very, very positive that the day is not far where we have those kind of services which is going to transform the legal services in India, and the kind of products and services we need for a better turnaround on legal work, whether it's at the court level, whether it's in the lawyer's office, whether it's wherever it may be.
Okay, okay. Ms. Patil?
So basically, the train has left the platform and it's going to go and develop at its own pace. I think we just need to understand that there are risks. So when we are going to use this, we have to be very cognizant of the fact of not getting carried away and be very real about what is the problem that we are trying to solve. And let's not create more problems in trying to solve a problem that may not be that large.
So I think Tejal summarized it really well. I'll just take a cue from her earlier statement. I think in my view also the legal function has been slightly slower in terms of adoption of technology, and with the word of caution that Gaurav shared, I think this is that one moment where while we have been slow in adopting technology, but we can actually leapfrog with generative AI kind of technologies in that sense. But of course, it has to be done in a cautious, phased manner in that sense. So, which is what Tejal said. So, absolutely agree.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all for being a part of this vibrant discussion. As we now come to an end to this enlightening discussion on generative AI and its impact on legal services and corporate law functions, as we all heard that there is a consensus among the panelists that generative AI is the present and the future, and they are open to its adoption and implementation, but it has to be done in a right and a phased manner. So here we conclude the session. Thank you. Thank you so much.